So as you might recall, I adored the first 2 seasons of Harley Quinn. I was one of the first people to jump on the Harley Quinn bandwagon, back when it was a DC Universe show. And then it went to HBO Max, and we were like, ooh, maybe it'll get a bigger audience. And it kind of did. And now it's on Max. Maybe it'll get, I don't know, I think it's coming off of a little bit of a wonky run. So let me explain. So the first 2 seasons, as I said again, were brilliant. And I felt that this animated show did more to make Harley her own character, away from the Joker, and Harlivy a power couple, than any of the recent DC comics or movies. Anything really, I think, since the original animated series, where not only was Harley Quinn created, but where they were, the seeds were sown, let's say, very poison ivy metaphor, for them to be a couple. Paul Dini has always said when he wrote that classic Harley and Ivy episode, he'd always meant for them to be romantically involved. But season 3, I felt it was very uneven, and I know that some of you agree with that. In fact, I would wager that many of you agree with that. I personally thought it was a very poor depiction of Harley Quinn, where she was more annoying than quirky, and I thought she was very, very needy in her relationship with Poison Ivy, frustratingly and annoyingly so. Then the Valentine's Day special certainly had its moments, and it was great. I love the focus on Harley and Ivy. I think they are a wonderful couple. They've been hinted at, as I said, since they were first introduced. But I think that they just are very special. And so to see them so well depicted, and to finally, DC has been kind of called out for not totally going there until this animated show really brought them to the forefront as a couple. So to get a Valentine's Day special in particular was really iconic and a very big watershed moment for them, and also I think for representation, particularly in this space. But anyway, while that special had its moments, for me the humor was not only way too inappropriate, but I also felt very sophomoric. I mean, I have no problem with a good, clever, inappropriate joke, but you don't want wall-to-wall ones. And again, when they're sophomoric, it starts to seem like cheap jokes. And so I didn't think the Valentine's Day special was really worked out, even though I liked the idea of it. Season 4, though, well, Max didn't give out the 10th episode, so I guess it's got big surprises in it. They did that with the previous season 2 screener, the last, screeners for season 3. But I watched episodes 1 through 9, and I loved them. Oh, I thought it was so good. And it was a great binge. In fact, because I've been having a very busy week, to make sure I was able to review it relatively on time. The show dropped yesterday, the first 3 episodes. I watched it, the 9 episodes, in a day. And there was a great binge, because not only was it a lot of fun, but they had really great cliffhanger endings. So I was like, on to the next one. I can't wait to see what's happening. And you can, as I said, they dropped the first 3 already on day 1, so you can do kind of a mini binge yourself right now. But it's a great binge. I almost wish they dropped. No one's talking about this show, unfortunately, so I wish they had dropped all the episodes together. I think people might forget to come back week to week. So I think this is a show that would be better off as a binge, particularly until it builds I mean, it has an audience, but not like, it doesn't even have like the boys size audience, and that's big. That's gotten very big, but it's so far from being a big show, which is sad. All right, so anyway, now I've seen some other reviews of season 4 because I was trying to figure out when the embargo was going to lift, because I got, they have Warner Brothers or Max hasn't really been promoting this show either, right? So I was checking out these other reviews, and I saw that a number of people felt that this still wasn't on par with seasons 1 and 2. And I don't know, maybe it's not. But I guess because it's been so long since those seasons, and this is like close enough, and I had to sit through a disappointing season 3 and Valentine's Day special, I'm just so glad to be back in the same ballpark of quality. So, I think they're great, honestly. And it's interesting to watch this after Barbie. I do have Barbie on the brain, but they have a lot of the same feminist conversations going on here, explored in a similarly fun and brightly colored yet still very smart way, like Barbie. Particularly with Poison Ivy, who of course you know from the ending of season 3 is the new CEO of the Legion of Doom. And let's just say the male villains who make up the majority of the Legion of Doom aren't too happy about it. And also, she's mentoring 3 female villains. It was Terra, a different take on Terra, and Volcana from the animated series. And those 2 characters, I really liked the way they were designed in particular. Also, to my absolute delight, there's hardly any Clayface this season. Now, apparently there are Clayface fans out there. And at first, I tolerated him. I thought, at the beginning he had his moments, but especially in season 3 and the Valentine's Day special, he just became, in my opinion, awful. Alan Tudyk's version of the character is not funny, super annoying, and just way too dumb. I just really, so glad that there is hardly any Clayface this season. Frank's not around much either, but I like Frank. So, you would think I would miss Frank, but I didn't, because that space has been filled by a new sidekick for Poison Ivy, and that's Nora Fries as her personal assistant. Now, I didn't like Nora Fries in season 3 either. She was the source of a lot of those sophomoric inappropriate jokes. And she's still a party animal, but here I thought the writing was much better, and Rachel Dratch was given much more to do, and she's phenomenal. And you know what? They kind of turned Nora Fries into a sexy version of the edgy, angry humor of Tony Hale's Dr. Psycho, who I loved. I do miss him, but he comes back briefly this season towards the end. Briefly, but he's there. So while in season 3, after having just gotten together, Harley Quinn was smothering Poison Ivy with love, the showrunners had said they didn't want to create drama in the show by creating problems between Harley Quinn and Poison Ivy. And I agree with that. It's great to see a really healthy and happy LGBT couple. But at the same time, the smothering was, I feel, equally as annoying. Now here, in this season, they're both pursuing their separate careers and are therefore given some healthy and much needed time apart. But that's not to say that Harley and Ivy don't have a ton of scenes together. They most certainly do. I think they're together every episode still. But this is important. They take a villain-themed trip to Vegas, which was a ton of fun. I love that. But they're back to being 2 separate, clearly defined characters who both complement and contrast with each other. In other words, the brilliant balance of their relationship has been restored, both within the context of the relationship, but also as characters. Also, it's because, I really didn't like the way they were depicted in season 3. Also, it's healthy for all couples to spend some time apart and have separate identities, as this season illustrates. And I love how this show makes use of Harley Quinn's background in psychiatry, either directly with that persona showing up, right? Or just in being a very healthy upfront discussion of a lot of these important issues from real life that just happen to be done through the superhero lens. On that note, with superheroes, Harley Quinn is trying to join the Bat Family, which was also set up at the end of season 3. Now, the more popular Harley has gotten in pop culture thanks to the movies, the more DC has tried to evolve her into an anti-hero. Now, I have no problem with Harley Quinn having more of a strict moral code. In some areas, you don't want her to go totally goody two-shoes, but I do agree. If everyone's going to be cheering Harley Quinn on, I think there are some things she kind of can't do. But to me, having her join the Bat Family as she had in the comics has been too much. I've hated that. But here, just like the show has sold me on other aspects of independent Harley Quinn, they're kind of selling me on her in the Bat Family because I think they've done it so well. And that's that unlike in the comics, she is not just immediately accepted. Just all of a sudden she was part of the Bat Family. I hated that. But here the Bat Family doesn't want her to be part of their group. And remember, Bruce Wayne is in jail, so he's not there to referee. So it's just kind of like the kids playing and getting crazy. And Harley is really struggling to drop her villain habits, which makes for a very funny and very interesting storyline. In fact, as the season progresses, it gets more and more interesting, that aspect of the show, and deliciously darker. They do things here that unfortunately the comics would never have the guts to do these days, and the comics are suffering because of it. This is great. I would love to see this stuff reflected in the comics. Even in the comics, actually it's tough. The Poison Ivy comic, the solo Poison Ivy comic is actually really well written right now by G. Willow Wilson, and I think it's Trini Howard writing Harley Quinn. She's not doing a good job. So it seems a little lopsided in the comics right now because they don't both have good titles. All right, so anyway, and besides delighting Harley Quinn and Poison Ivy fans, Nightwing fans who could take a joke will also have a lot of fun this season, as he not only has a lot of screen time, but there is a very clever focus on, well, let's say his most popular feature. Oh, that stuff was hilarious. In contrast to the Bat family, Harley Quinn is not just a villain, but she lives her life more fully. For instance, the Bat family having no idea what's happening on social media is just one of the ways that this is cleverly illustrated. Again, I thought that was so funny and so good. Great moments to look forward to this season: that trip to Vegas, DC's own Villain Con, and Harley and Ivy go into the future. That was particularly surprising. I loved what they did there. And you know what it reminded me of? Gargoyles. Oh, it was so great. This continues to be by far and away my favorite version of both Harley Quinn and Poison Ivy. And kudos to Kaley Cuoco and Lake Bell, who do so much to create that. They just do. They are, in many ways, I feel, the definitive Harley Quinn and Poison Ivy at this point. Up there with, I think even more so, because while those characters were, of course, wonderful in the animated series, I think it was Arlene Sorkin did the voice of Harley Quinn, and Diane Pershing or something was Poison Ivy. But they weren't explored to the extent they are here, and they weren't let loose to the extent they are here. And it's just a joy to watch. As for new characters this season, Talia Al Ghul is such an incredible addition. She is by far the other best female character they've ever had on the show. Although I really do like Nora Fries this season. But Talia Al Ghul is phenomenal. Hardcore channeling Salma Hayek. I wish that all three of these characters were as cool in the comics as they are on the show. And the Johns, Lex Luthor's team of PR clones. I won't say much about them, but they are as dangerous as they are effective. And this storyline was very, very clever. I'm not familiar with the comedian who does the voice for all of them, but the line readings here were also particularly good. So that's my review of Harley Quinn Season 4, which again just dropped the first 3 episodes of the new season on Max. You can watch the other seasons in the special as well if you haven't caught up. And you should, I don't know, some important stuff happens in Season 3. I think you kind of have to watch it. But this is, and also you could jump right in if you wanted to. I think you could. And then the rest of the season will air weekly through 10 episodes total. Share your own thoughts down below, subscribe today, and of course, as always, you can check out some more videos right now.